Sheila Welch is with us tonight. Miss Welch, it's my understanding that highly trained dogs were brought out to that Indian reservation, that general area. You say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they hit in the area and police did not follow up.
Well, actually, Nancy, it's a lot worse than what you just said. The dogs started at the home, and they tracked all the way to the Indian reservation.
Miss Welch, I did not understand that. That is incredible. I remember the last time I heard of a dog tracking that far was in the Lacey Peterson case. The dog tracked all the way from her home in Modesto to the San Francisco Bay. So you're telling me that these two trained dogs, especially, one was trained in cadaver and one was trained in something else?
Well, they're both trail dogs in the sense that they can go get in a car and you go on the road or the freeway until there's a place you can pull off. And the dogs get off out of the car and sniff to see if the car with the person in it moved. And if it didn't, you get back on the freeway and you go to the next off-ramp. And it's repeated and repeated until there's no longer a scent on the highway or the road or the freeway. And it ended at the Indian reservation.
To Lawrence Olmsted, also joining us tonight exclusively from L.A. He's the PI hired by Amber's grandmother. Mr. Olmsted, thank you for being with us. What did you observe? You were there with the dogs, is that correct?
I was there with the dogs and witnessed everything that transpired there. Well, you know, when we followed the scent trail from Amber's home, we followed the scent trail essentially on the same way that she would go to school every day. One thing that was different, you know, we've got eyewitness reports that say that the last time they saw Amber was approximately 200 yards from the school entrance. Well, approximately at the same location, there happens to be a gate and a driveway for a bus maintenance area. At that same spot, that's where Amber's scent changed directions. It actually went across the street abruptly, took a hard left turn.
And the dog did this? The dogs did
this, right. The dogs never went all the way up to the school entrance. So we know clearly she never made it to the school entrance and that the scent turned left to cross Broadway.
Then what
happened? So it went across the street, went through some residential area there, and then headed to the 15 freeway north. And from there,
Mr.
all the way up to...
Olmsted, you're telling me the dog, you're observing the two dogs, and they're in a car?
They're actually in a vehicle, just like Mrs. Welch explained earlier. The dogs there's two dogs, and what they do is they actually verify each other's scent trail. One dog will get out first, try to find the scent, and it'll give an indication whether or not it got a scent, and then we bring the other dog out, and it'll do the same routine and indicate whether or not it hit a scent. If both dogs agree that there was a scent there, then you pursue that scent trail to the next exit or wherever you decide to stop, bring the dogs out and repeat the process. And this process happened all the way into the Paula Indian Reservation.
And what happened when they got to the Indian Reservation?
When we got to the Indian Reservation, we had found 3 specific locations that the dogs reacted quite strongly to Amber's scent.
What do you mean they reacted quite strongly? They barked, they sniff at the ground, they dig at the ground.
Scratch at doors, spin around. They're taught to give commands to their handler. The handler gives the canine a command, and the canine actually gives a response to the handler if there's something or if there's nothing. And
so they really hit at the Indian Reservation, but then what happened?
What happened is they hit at 3 locations within the Indian Reservation, and we immediately followed up with people in these locations. Each one of the locations, except for one, had people associated with it at the time we were there. And immediately to speak to people, we started interviewing witnesses, people that were at these locations, learned as much as we can about the locations, and obviously showed flyers and photographs and tried to establish whether or not had anyone seen her, Amber, at these locations.
Well, did you give the information to police?
We did. On August 24th, I prepared a final report on our visit to Paula, to my client, And we also supplied Escondido Police Department a copy of the same report for their review and follow-up investigation.
Well, what did they do?
You know, it's hard to say what they did. I followed up in Paula 2 other occasions from that point forward to try to find out if I could verify whether or not the police did follow up. I was able to verify one location that I know they did follow up. Unfortunately, 2 other locations. One location, nobody had heard from police, at least the people that I spoke to didn't hear from police at all. And one other location was basically abandoned during normal business hours, and this would be a place of business, which I found kind of odd when I arrived that there was no one there to speak to.
What kind of business was it?
You know, because it's an ongoing homicide investigation right now, and these locations may have witnesses or suspects attached.
Okay.
So I really
Lawrence,
don't think it's a good idea to elaborate.
Lawrence Olmsted with us. How far away from the spot, the 3 spots where the dogs hit, were her remains found, Olmsted?
You know, being familiar with that location, and actually we took our dogs, our canine team, right past that location. I don't have the specific information on the location, but I'm pretty familiar with the terrain and the streets there. And I believe that we were searching with a live scent at that time, looking for Amber's scent as a live person, and we passed that location. We never were looking for a cadaver at the time.